If you love America as much as you say, then you'll listen very closely. So Ted Cruz stands up and says it's time to step up and restore the American promise. But what promise is he speaking of? The promise his wife broke when she sold America out to the Council on Foreign Relations? The promise that she broke when she began work on building a North American community? What the heck is that, you ask? Well, yes, it does sound so innocent. We're just building a community for North America. Surely you can't be against building a community, right? Well, yes, Mrs. Ted Cruz, I am. So how do you dissolve a nation's sovereignty peacefully and with the people's consent? Well, you can just ask Mrs. Cruz, or anyone living in Europe for that matter. They all now use one currency. You see, the transformation of Europe into a single national body with its own bank, legislative body, and military force took many, many years to accomplish, about 42 to be exact. It began with the Treaty of Paris in 1951, and that created the European Coal and Steel Community. And then when the 1957 Treaty of Rome was signed, it morphed into the European Economic Community. In 1993, by order of the Maastricht Treaty, it was renamed the European Community and then absorbed by the newly formed European Union. So why is this important to Americans? Why should you care? Well, one only needs to work the clock backwards from Heidi Cruz's work to build a North American community to see what the globalists have in store for this hemisphere. What follows is only a portion of the exhaustive timeline that's posted at globalresearch.ca.
Now, I'm the first to acknowledge that there's a good deal left unfinished on the conservative agenda. Our cleanup crew will need more than 2 years to deal with the mess left by others for over half a century.
Now, it all began with Ronald Reagan, Republican, in 1979. He was campaigning, and while he was campaigning, he proposed the North American Agreement to produce, quote, a North American continent in which the goods and people of the three countries will cross boundaries more freely. He fulfilled that campaign promise in 1981 when he presented the idea of a North American common market. Then 4 years later, in 1985, he notified Congress of his desire to begin negotiations with Canada on a free trade agreement to promote trade. He gives then Congress 90 days to approve it. 2 years later, in October of 1987, the Canada-United States Free Trade Agreement is finalized. U.S. Trade Representative Clayton Uter said of the agreement, quote, we've signed a stunning new trade pact with Canada. The Canadians don't understand what they've signed. In 20 years, they will be sucked into the U.S. economy.
Is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the first decentralized digital currency.
Let's say you want to start a Bitcoin company in the US. Chances are you're going to need a money transmitter license, or rather 51 of them, because 47 states, 3 territories, and the District of Columbia each have their own permitting process for any business that handles money on behalf of its customers. Here's Megan Burton, the CEO of the Bitcoin exchange firm CoinX, talking about what this process has been like for her company.
Some applications have been in for over a year, and we're unable to determine the path forward as it's not a clear process.
is close to completion. We are aware that bankers and financiers hold the top positions in the New World Order pyramid, and we know that specific banking families wield the most power within this banking hierarchy. It's time we started putting pressure on the source of our problems. Pandering to politicians and a fraudulent government is a waste of time. Instead, we need to expose the hidden hands controlling the top family-owned banks. This task won't be easy because the banking families have become elusive. They use private investment vehicles to hide their majority ownership in various companies. They shun public attention and often send representatives to attend world government functions, such as Bilderberg or the Council on Foreign Relations. However, we may still root out the banking shot callers. They have not always been so secretive. People of all nations must join together, not for a global dictatorship, but to confront the elite bankers. Here are a few of them. Max Warburg II, David Rockefeller Jr., Anna Patricia Botan, Pierre Landolt, Jacob Wallenberg, David Rene de Rothschild, Michel David Weil.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
I call upon all states to join ranks in order to found the new world order of the 21st century.
And people talked then, in 1990, of a new world order. What they actually meant then was a new political order. And the question for us is how we meet and master all these challenges to ensure that Britain enhances its competitiveness in the process and realizes what I believe is our destiny of success in this new world order. So, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, a new world is emerging. It is a new world order with significantly different and radically new challenges for the future.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. The way Bush has done it over the last 8 years, added $4 trillion by his lonesome, that's irresponsible. It's unpatriotic. We cannot and will not sustain deficits like these without end. That's why today I'm pledging to cut the deficit we inherited by half by the end of my first term in office.
The Dow dropped nearly 1,000 points in a half hour.
It's intimidating, it's frightening.
A partial government shutdown.
We all know that our government is way off track. The debt is astronomical and is going to cripple not only our own freedom and our own economy, but our children and our grandchildren are going to be effectively slaves paying for all the things that we're spending money on today. We also know that Washington, D.C. will never fix itself. The Founding Fathers recognized that this was a potential as well. And in Article 5 of the Constitution, they gave us a solution. The The states have the power under Article 5 to call a convention of the states for the purpose of proposing amendments to the Constitution. Because sometimes what you need is not a change of personnel, you need a change of structure. The founders understood the importance of structure, and they gave the power to the states to create a new set of rules. When the federal government overstepped its boundaries, we could recalibrate the rules to take power away from Washington, D.C. and give it back to the people and to the states. There's a simple plan for doing this. There are 4,000 legislative districts that are really crucial to us, and we want to have grassroots organizations in 4,000 legislative districts across the country. These are state house legislative districts because the state legislature is what matters. We need you to join with us. We need 100 citizens in each of these districts to be citizen volunteers and local leaders to make sure that Washington, D.C.'s power is taken back and return it to the people. The Founding Fathers understood that structure was an important part of preserving liberty. Please join with us at conventionofstates.com and help us preserve liberty not only for ourselves, but for our children, our grandchildren, and the generations to come.